So warm-ups for today. If you're sitting at home, pause them, try them. You should be able to get number one. Number two, maybe not. The hint on number two is that I would definitely start on the right-hand side, and I would factor that first. And then if you can factor that, it's actually not very difficult, but can you factor secant to the fourth minus tangent to the fourth? So press pause, give them a try, and then we'll come back and work them in a moment. All right, number one. Again, these are test-inspired warm-ups, and there are two, kind of like number one on the test, meaning you don't know what the answer is, so you have to simplify until something easier shows up. So not many options to do with this one. I know that tangent is sine over cosine. I know that cosecant is 1 over sine. And then hopefully as soon as you write that down, you have a little bit of an aha moment of, oh wait, the sines will cancel. That's good news. That simplifies things a little bit. Then I'm left with 1 over cosine. But 1 over cosine is secant. So the most simplified answer out of that one would be secant. Number two is a proof or an identity, verify, where you only work on one side. I think there are 3 of those on the test. And again, you usually want to work on the more complicated side, so something with a fourth in it looks pretty bad. So let's work on that side. Here's the key first step to this. You can factor that like a difference of squares. Like x squared minus y squared is x plus y, x minus y. So secant to the fourth minus tangent to the fourth would be secant squared minus tangent squared times secant squared plus tangent squared. But all those squares make me think of those Pythagorean identities. The ones that start with sine squared plus cosine squared is 1, and the others come from dividing by. Let's see, if I want tangent to show up, I should divide by cosine squared. So tangent squared plus 1 equals secant squared. So what does tangent squared plus 2 equal? Yeah, you're right. I don't know. So, but you're right to be looking over here. I think what instead I would say is, my answer doesn't have any secants in it, so I want to get rid of the secants. So let's replace my secant squareds with tangent squared plus 1. Uh-oh, did I do this wrong? I think I did. I think I wrote this down wrong. Anyway, in place of secant goes tangent squared plus 1. In place of secant goes tangent squared plus 1. So tangent squared plus 1 minus tangent squared times tangent squared plus 1 plus tangent squared. Nobody watch while I grab the white out and fix my mistake. And I'm recording this one. That's unfortunate. I mean, I know I make mistakes, but I don't like to put them out there in the public, right? So there was my original problem, right? Everybody remembers this is how the problem actually started. 2 tangent squared plus 1. In this one, the tangent squareds cancel, and you're left with just 1 times tangent squared plus tangent squared is 2 tangent squared plus 1. Now that's not something you're allowed to do, right? You get halfway through a proof, and you're like, well, let me just change the other side to make it work. That's a teacher prerogative thing. I made a mistake. The key step on that and why I did this one, jokes about my incompetence aside, is this first step of factoring a difference of something with a fourth in it. Because once you do that, then it's not really that bad as long as you know the Pythagorean identities. So that's, again, test inspired, and that key first step was why I wanted to do this one. Let me briefly tell you, to give you the test outline. Let me pause and go look at the tests. All right, so there's the quantity, 2, 3, 1, 10. There's two simplify problems. That's like number 1 in the warm-up we just did. So use identities, use information, but you don't know the answer. There's 3 verify problems. Those are a lot like the simplify problems, except that you have the answer, so you kind of know what you're going to. You're also allowed to work on either side, but only on one side. We hesitate to use the word because you've got such a bad taste in your mouth from geometry, but those are proofs. You know, very different than geometry proofs, but they're proofs. There's one, use a Pythagorean identity, or a picture actually works just as well. Pardon?
That's what we learned yesterday.
So the picture method that's a really good question. The picture method is what we learned yesterday. The use of Pythagorean identity is so this is from worksheet 2, 13 and 14. Looks like this. Use Pythagorean identity to find secant x for this problem. But you could also just draw the picture, because since we did this, we learned about drawing pictures. So there's really now 2 ways to work these problems, and I don't care which way you work it. So that sort of ties together the units, or the pieces of the unit. And then there's 10 that are, let's just say, like worksheet 5. The inverse trig stuff, where some are unit circle and some are picture. Let's see, point-wise, these first 6 are 5 each. And then the last 10 are 2 each. Those go pretty quick. And those first 6 are a little more complicated. So you add all that up, 6 times 5 is 30, plus 2 times 10, 30 plus 20, gets you to 50 points. I don't think time will be an issue, as long as you don't get stuck. Like, I don't think the simplify ones will be tricky. But sometimes people get stuck spinning their wheels on proofs. If you get stuck on one, leave it and come back to it. Or try a different method, or try working on the other side. But, I mean, you guys are smart enough to not, spend 30 minutes on one problem that you're stuck on and forget to do the rest of the test. But sometimes that's tempting if you get stuck somewhere. Leave it and come back to it. Just in case someone's watching the wrong video or a different video or whatever. The worksheets that are due. Worksheet 1, worksheet 2, worksheet 5, and the review. So 1 and 2 came from the original packet. The other 2 were handed out in class or posted online for you guys watching at home. All right, let's spend the rest of the time. You got the rest of the time to work on the review. Answers are posted in Schoology, and answers are in class right there on that desk.